After Fajr, something rare happens, not in the sky, but inside the heart. Most people don't notice it. They turn away, they go back to sleep, and they miss it. Ibn Arabi taught that the moments after Fajr are not ordinary time, they are a doorway. A moment when the ego is quiet, the soul is exposed, and Allah's mercy is closer than we realize. If you've been asking Allah for peace, if your rizq feels delayed, if your heart feels heavy without knowing why, then listen carefully, because what you do after Fajr may be the reason peace has not yet settled, or the reason it soon will. Today, we will uncover 7 powerful lessons from Ibn Arabi that reveal why a single dua after Fajr can realign your heart, restore trust, and quietly open doors that force never could. Stay with me. This message is not loud, but it is for those who are ready. After Fajr, the heart is most receptive. Ibn Arabi taught that Allah opens the heart before He opens the world, and there is no moment more powerful for this opening than the time after Fajr. In these early minutes, the soul has not yet been contaminated by noise, fear, or worldly demands. The mind is still quiet, the ego is still weak, and the heart is unusually honest. Most people return to sleep after Fajr, not realizing they are walking away from a spiritual doorway. Ibn Arabi explained that when the body is rested but the world has not yet demanded attention, the heart becomes like fertile soil. Whatever you plant at this hour takes root deeply. A dua recited now does not skim the surface of the tongue, it penetrates the inner being. This is why dua after Fajr carries a different weight. It is not rushed, it is not distracted, it is not mixed with desperation. It comes from a place of stillness, where sincerity is natural and trust flows easily. At this hour, you are not asking Allah as a desperate servant chasing outcomes. You are standing before Him as a present, aware, surrendered soul. Ibn Arabi taught that divine response is often delayed not because Allah withholds, but because the heart is not ready to receive. After Fajr, readiness is built into the moment itself. The silence softens resistance. The early light awakens hope, and the heart becomes open enough for peace to enter, which is always the first door Allah opens before rizq follows. Peace comes before rizq. Ibn Arabi taught that many people chase provision while their hearts are still in chaos. They ask Allah for more money, more opportunity, more security, yet inside they are anxious, impatient, and fearful. Ibn Arabi warned that a disturbed heart cannot hold lasting rizq. When peace is missing, even blessings become burdens. True peace is not the absence of problems, it is the presence of trust. And this trust is built quietly, especially in moments like after Fajr. At this hour, when the world has not yet placed its demands on you, Allah offers something more valuable than wealth: inner alignment. When the heart settles, the soul stops resisting divine timing. Ibn Arabi explained that Allah often gives peace first because peace prepares the vessel. A heart filled with panic leaks blessings. A heart filled with gratitude preserves them. This is why some people receive much, yet remain unsatisfied, while others receive little, yet live with deep contentment. Rizq does not increase life, peace does. When you ask Allah for peace after Fajr, you are not asking for comfort, you are asking for clarity. And clarity reshapes destiny. Once the heart is steady, decisions become wiser, patience grows, and opportunities appear without strain. Ibn Arabi taught that when the inner world is ordered, the outer world rearranges itself accordingly. This is the hidden wisdom. Peace is not the reward after rizq. Peace is the gateway to rizq. Consistency opens what intensity cannot. Ibn Arabi taught that Allah does not look for dramatic moments of devotion, but for faithful return. Many people turn to dua only when life collapses. They cry once, plead intensely, and then disappear. Ibn Arabi explained that this kind of intensity may move the emotions, but it rarely reshapes the soul. What truly transforms a person is consistency. After Fajr, when you return to Allah every single day, even with the same simple dua, something profound begins to happen. You are not just asking, you are training the heart. Each morning, repetition weakens doubt, softens impatience, and teaches the soul that Allah is its first reference point, not the world. Ibn Arabi described consistency as a quiet declaration of trust. It says, "I believe you are listening, even when nothing seems to change." This steady return polishes the heart the way water polishes stone, slowly, silently but permanently. Over time, the soul stops demanding instant results and starts resting in divine timing. What intensity cannot unlock in one night, consistency opens gently over days and weeks. Doors begin to shift. Ease appears where resistance once lived. Rizq finds paths that effort alone could not create. Ibn Arabi taught that when a servant shows up daily without desperation, Allah responds with provision that arrives without struggle. This is the secret. Consistency turns dua into destiny. Fajr is a test of priority, 3,000 characters. Ibn Arabi taught that Allah reveals a person's true priorities, not in public moments, but in quiet ones. After Fajr, there is no audience, no pressure, no one to impress. This is why this hour is not just a time of worship, it is a test of sincerity. Most people say Allah comes first in their lives, yet after Fajr they immediately return to sleep, scroll their phones, or rush back into worldly noise. Ibn Arabi explained that what you choose in silence exposes what truly governs your heart. If Allah is remembered only when life becomes difficult, then the world still holds first place. After Fajr, when you choose dua over comfort, remembrance over distraction, stillness over haste, you are making a powerful statement not with words, but with action. You are saying, my peace is not postponed. My connection to Allah is not conditional. This silent choice reshapes the soul far more than loud declarations ever could. Ibn Arabi taught that priorities are not proven by intention alone. They are proven by timing. Anyone can pray when desperate. Anyone can call upon Allah when fear arrives. But only a conscious heart turns to Allah when nothing is forcing it to. This is why the moments after Fajr carry such spiritual weight. They expose whether remembrance is a habit or merely a reaction. When you sit after Fajr and raise your hands in dua, you are placing Allah before your worries, before your plans, before your fears about Rizq. And Ibn Arabi emphasized something subtle but profound. When Allah is placed first, everything else falls into order without struggle. The servant no longer chases peace. Peace begins to accompany the servant. This is also why dua, after Fajr, carries authority. It is not born from panic or urgency. It is born from choice. And choice is what strengthens the soul. Each morning, you choose Allah in stillness. Your heart grows less dependent on outcomes and more anchored in trust. Over time, anxiety weakens, patience deepens, and reliance on Allah becomes natural rather than forced. Ibn Arabi taught that Allah responds generously to servants who honor Him before the world demands their attention, not always with immediate results, but with inner steadiness, clarity in decisions, and unseen protection. This is the quiet exchange. When you give Allah the first moments of your day, He takes care of the rest in ways you may not even notice. Fajr, then, is not only a prayer, it is a mirror. And what you do after it reveals who truly holds authority over your heart. Ibn Arabi taught that the greatest struggle of the human heart is not poverty, loss, or delay. It is distrust. Most anxiety is not caused by what we lack, but by what we fear will never arrive. The heart becomes restless when it forgets who is in control. And this is precisely where dua after Fajr performs its deepest work. Ibn Arabi explained that trust is not a belief you declare once. It is a state you must repeatedly return to. The soul does not become calm through understanding alone. It becomes calm through repetition. Each morning after Fajr, when you turn to Allah before the world claims your attention, you gently remind the heart where safety truly lives. At this hour, dua does something subtle but powerful. It does not immediately change circumstances. It changes orientation. The heart slowly turns away from outcomes and back toward reliance. Fear loosens its grip. Urgency softens. The soul begins to breathe again. This is not emotional comfort. This is spiritual recalibration. Many people say they trust Allah, yet their hearts are tense, rushed, and exhausted. Ibn Arabi taught that true trust leaves traces. A trusting heart is not frantic. It does not panic at delay. It does not collapse when answers take time. And this kind of trust is cultivated quietly through consistent remembrance, especially in moments like after Fajr. When you raise your hands in dua at this time, you are not bargaining. You are not demanding. You are returning. You are telling your heart, Allah is already aware. Allah is already managing. I do not need to force what He has already written. This repeated message slowly dissolves the illusion of control that causes so much inner suffering. Ibn Arabi taught that the heart becomes anxious when it believes it must carry the weight of provision alone. But dua after Fajr trains the soul to hand that weight back to Allah daily. This daily surrender weakens fear the way light weakens darkness, not suddenly, but inevitably. Over time, something remarkable happens. You begin to notice that situations which once triggered panic no longer disturb you as deeply. Delays do not feel like rejection. Silence does not feel like abandonment. You begin to sense that even when Allah withholds, He is still protecting. This is not optimism, this is experienced trust. And here is the hidden wisdom Ibn Arabi emphasized. When trust increases, risk flows with less resistance. Not because dua magically produces wealth, but because a trusting heart makes wiser decisions, waits with patience, recognizes opportunity, and does not sabotage blessings through fear-driven behavior. Anxiety repels ease. Trust invites it. Dua, after Fajr, also reshapes how you interpret life. Instead of asking, "Why is this happening to me?" the heart begins to ask, "What is Allah teaching me?" This shift alone restores peace. And peace is not the absence of struggle, it is confidence that struggle is meaningful. Ibn Arabi taught that Allah responds not only to words, but to states of being. A heart that consistently turns to Him in stillness carries a fragrance of reliance. And Allah loves to respond to such hearts, sometimes by granting what they ask, and sometimes by granting something far better: calm, certainty. This is why dua after Fajr feels different over time. At first, you may notice nothing, but slowly, trust replaces tension. Acceptance replaces fear, and even before circumstances change, you change. That inner shift is not a delay, it is the answer unfolding. Because when trust is restored, peace settles. And when peace settles, Rizq no longer has to fight its way into your life. Ibn Arabi taught that one of the greatest veils over the human heart is a narrow understanding of risk. Many people reduce provision to numbers, salary, possessions, or visible success. When these things are delayed, they believe Allah is withholding. Ibn Arabi warned that this belief blinds the soul to the countless forms of provision already flowing through its life. True risk is not limited to wealth. Risk is what sustains you, not just what enriches you. It includes peace of mind, protection from unseen harm, timely guidance, supportive people, inner strength during hardship, and even obstacles that prevent greater loss. Ibn Arabi taught that Allah often provides in forms the ego does not immediately recognize, because the ego only values what can be measured. This is why dua after Fajr is so powerful. At this quiet hour, the heart is less obsessed with comparison. The soul is not yet intoxicated by worldly definitions of success. When you ask Allah for risk in this state, your request becomes broader, deeper, and more aligned with what truly benefits you. You stop demanding a specific outcome and begin asking for divine wisdom and provision. Ibn Arabi explained that Allah sometimes withholds money to give safety. Sometimes He delays opportunity to protect the heart. Sometimes He removes people to grant peace. These are not losses, they are provisions disguised as deprivation. But only a calm, reflective heart can perceive this truth. And this calmness is cultivated daily through remembrance after Fajr. Many people receive wealth yet lose sleep, relationships, and inner balance. Ibn Arabi warned that such wealth is not true rizq because it does not nourish the soul. True provision brings expansion without corruption. It adds to life without draining the heart. When Allah gives in this way, the servant grows closer, not farther. Dua after Fajr realigns your understanding of what to seek. Instead of begging for outcomes shaped by fear, you begin to ask for what Allah knows will elevate you. You start to trust that if something is delayed, it is not denied, it is being refined. This trust transforms waiting from torture into worship. Ibn Arabi taught that when a servant's definition of rizq matures, gratitude multiplies. You begin to see provision in small mercies, a protected journey, a calm conversation, an unexpected ease, a problem that resolves quietly. These moments soften the heart and deepen certainty, and certainty attracts further blessings. There is also a subtle truth Ibn Arabi emphasized. When people obsess over money alone, they unknowingly restrict their own provision. Their attention becomes narrow, their gratitude shrinks, and their anxiety increases. But when the heart recognizes rizq in many forms, it becomes expansive. And an expansive heart can receive more without fear. After Fajr, when you sit in stillness and raise your hands, you are not only asking Allah to give, you are asking Allah to teach you how to recognize what He is already giving. This recognition is a gift in itself. It dissolves resentment. It replaces complaint with contentment. And contentment is a magnet for divine generosity. Ibn Arabi taught that Allah gives each servant according to what will draw them closer. For some, that is abundance. For others, it is restraint. For some, it is comfort. For others, it is challenge. All of it is rizq when it leads the heart back to Allah. This is why the one who remembers Allah after Fajr often lives with quiet richness, even when outward circumstances appear modest. Their life is not loud, but it is anchored. Their provision is not flashy, but it is sufficient. And sufficiency, Ibn Arabi taught, is one of the greatest forms of wealth. When you understand this, fear loosens its grip. You stop chasing provision blindly and start receiving it consciously. And that shift alone changes how life unfolds, because the heart that recognizes rizq is never truly poor. Ibn Arabi taught that Allah's closest servants are rarely the loudest, the most visible, or the most impressive to the world. They are the ones who return consistently, quietly, without demanding recognition. Their power does not come from how intensely they ask, but from how faithfully they show up. In a world that rewards noise, urgency, and constant explanation, the quiet servant seems invisible. Yet Ibn Arabi explained that invisibility before people often means nearness to Allah. When a servant turns to Allah after Fajr day after day, without announcing it, without seeking validation, something sacred forms a private relationship built on trust rather than transaction. The quiet servant does not rush Allah. They do not threaten abandonment if answers are delayed. They do not measure devotion by results. They return because returning itself has become their peace. Ibn Arabi taught that this state where worship is no longer conditional is where divine response becomes inevitable. After Fajr, when the servant sits alone with Allah, no audience present, no urgency pushing them, the dua rises differently. It carries humility instead of demand, presence instead of panic, certainty instead of desperation. And Allah responds to states, not just words. Many people believe being answered means receiving exactly what they asked for, exactly when they want it. Ibn Arabi corrected this misunderstanding. He taught that being answered sometimes means being protected from what would have harmed you. Sometimes it means being redirected. Sometimes it means being strengthened internally before anything changes externally. The quiet servant recognizes this, and so they do not lose faith when silence follows dua. Silence is not rejection. Silence is often preparation. The quiet servant continues anyway. This persistence without pressure reshapes destiny. When a person no longer panics at delay, their heart becomes steady, and a steady heart can carry blessings without collapsing under them. Ibn Arabi taught that Allah does not give heavy gifts to fragile hearts. He strengthens the heart first quietly through remembrance, patience, and unseen refinement. Over time, the quiet servant notices something subtle. Life begins to cooperate. Problems soften. Opportunities appear without force. Rizq finds routes that effort alone could not open. Peace settles not because circumstances are perfect, but because the heart has stopped arguing with divine timing. The quiet servant is also protected from envy, comparison, and spiritual exhaustion. Because their relationship with Allah is private, it is not shaken by what others receive or display. Ibn Arabi taught that comparison is a disease of the ego, and the ego loses its grip when remembrance becomes intimate rather than performative. There is a deep wisdom here. Allah responds generously to those who do not try to control the response. When dua becomes surrender instead of negotiation, the heart aligns with divine order, and alignment is more powerful than insistence. The quiet servant does not announce miracles, they live them quietly. They do not broadcast blessings, they preserve them through gratitude. They do not chase signs, they trust the unseen. Ibn Arabi taught that such servants are already answered because their hearts have arrived at certainty. After Fajr, when you choose stillness over distraction, remembrance over sleep, humility over haste, you step into this lineage of quiet servants. You may feel unnoticed, you may feel ordinary, but in the unseen, something profound is being written. Because Allah does not forget the servant who remembers Him in silence, and the one who returns consistently, without noise, without condition, without despair, is never truly unanswered. After Fajr, Allah is not asking you for perfection. He is asking you for presence. You do not need long words. You do not need eloquency. You only need to return again and again with a heart that trusts. Ibn Arabi taught that the servant who comes quietly is never ignored, that the one who remembers Allah in stillness is already close, and that when the heart settles, provision follows, not always loudly, but always precisely. If peace has been missing, return after Fajr. If Rizq feels delayed, return without fear. If answers feel distant, return without conditions, because Allah does not forget the servant who remembers Him when no one else is watching. Let your dua be calm, let your trust be steady, and let the morning light remind you that what is written for you will arrive exactly when your heart is ready to carry it. Odd? If this message resonated with you, stay connected. Return tomorrow. The soul grows through remembrance.